I am literally a few weeks away from a hysterectomy. Today I wanted to share my experience with fibroids, which is what led me down this path. I refuse to call it a journey, but what led me down the path of getting a hysterectomy in the first place was a number of fibroids and now a cyst on my ovaries and my uterus. There are so many things that I wish I had known once I was diagnosed with fibroids, and there are so many things that, had I known these things, I may have made different decisions along the way, but I didn't, and I didn't know. And I think that there's just a dearth of information, there's a dearth of dialogue and conversation around this issue. So today, I'm here and I wanted to shed some light. Based on my experience, I'm not a medical professional. I have zero background in medicine, especially women's health. All I know is what's happening with my body. But I feel like by sharing our stories, we have a lot to learn and we have a lot to gain. So hopefully, me coming on here and sharing what I'm going through right now will help someone else who's in a similar position or help to navigate. Maybe you're not in this position, but you also want to avoid it. And I can't guarantee that I can teach you or tell you how to avoid it either, because there's still so many things that I don't know because they are not known. But let's break it down. 8 years ago, I started having like really intense bloating and cramping, mostly at night, which I attributed to my diet. I've been an on again, off again vegetarian slash vegan for a number of years. And at the time that I was diagnosed with fibroids, I had been eating meat full force. And I like to look at my diet because I feel like that's like one of the biggest indicators of what's going on with my body. Like when I'm doing my own awareness scans and just getting in touch with how I'm feeling. Diet always plays a huge part. Like, what am I eating? How am I nourishing myself? And honestly, I tend to be on the healthier side, even when I am eating meat, which is right now. So I do opt for fresher foods. I like whole food eating, so I eat a lot of fresh fruit, a lot of grains. But I do think at the time I was eating a lot of processed foods. And I'm not saying that this is why I had fibroids, but I do believe that diet absolutely plays a part. So I landed in urgent care. Of course, my urgent care doctor is there to stop bleeding and stitch you up in a hurry. So they're not really looking at systemic health issues, which I believe fibroids are a symptom of. And so I'd go in there, get patched up, bandaged, but not really making the connection between my reproductive health and whatever symptom that I was feeling. And so this has been going on for ages. But at the time when it started, when I did have that, after those first couple of initial visits to the urgent care, I decided to contact my primary doctor, my primary care physician, and have them do like kind of a comprehensive check, like what's going on with my body. They did not like do in-depth things with my reproductive organs. So the fibroids went undetected, and it was like, well, maybe you're getting gas, maybe your body is just changing because you're menopausal or perimenopausal. And so I just kind of chalked it up to, okay, I'm in perimenopause. This is just what life is now, But after that initial screening, I also scheduled an appointment to meet with my OBGYN. And she is actually the one who first detected the fibroid. I had a number of fibroids, but they were all relatively small. We're talking smaller than a walnut at that point. But they were still wreaking havoc on my body, which I wasn't making the connection at the time. Her advice to me, and this is why I brought up my diet earlier, her advice to me was follow a vegan diet or vegetarian and get an IUD. Well, it just so happens that I was there because I was swapping out my IUD for a new one, because I get one every 5 years, and I have for a very long time, about 20 years now. So I was there anyway for IUD. So I was like, okay, well, both of those things are doable. And she, but there was alarm there, aside from the fact that, let me scooch back a little bit. So my primary care physician also identified, after doing my blood work, that I had anemia. I wasn't shocked by the anemia. I've been anemic pretty much since I started menstruating when I was a preteen. I started early. And I've had anemia all this time. I've found ways to deal with it whenever I feel like low iron, low energy, meat, beans, and greens. And that's how I overcome my anemia, through my diet. I don't usually take pills. So I cycle a lot, once my iron gets low, I have to accommodate for it. Anyway, she did this initial exam. She found the fibroids. I changed my diet. I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. And I went on with my life. I started doing research, and I started talking to people. I started talking to a lot of friends, and they were saying like, oh yeah, I had fibroids. Oh yeah, I did this. Oh yeah, I had to get mine removed. And I heard so many different stories from this direction, from that direction, and no real comprehensive reasons why. Like, no one could tell me why. The OB that I visited, who did tell me to do the vegetarian or vegan diet, she also mentioned that they could be hereditary. Well, my mom and my aunts, and I don't have any brothers or sisters, but the women in my family, as far as I know, haven't really had an issue with fibroids. So I was a little suspicious about the idea of them being a hereditary thing. I didn't know anyone in my bloodline that had a hysterectomy. So this is all like, are you sure? Kind of situation. And no, they're not sure. They're still not sure. So there's not really a definitive answer as to what causes fibroids. But the definitive that we all are aware of, especially if we are facing fibroids or have already started getting treatment for fibroids, is that this is a problem. I'm starting to think it's a systemic problem, and there's something going on, and we need to figure it out. I can guarantee this video is not going to explain that, because I don't know. So there's not, and like I said, I don't have a medical background, so I can't give you any definitives. But what I can do is share my experience, and we can look at our patterns of behavior. We can look at our lifestyle choices. We can also talk to each other. But I think first and foremost is getting and seeking reputable medical advice. So regardless of your current stage, I have some thoughts that I want to share with you, and some things that I wish I had known at the beginning of my diagnosis, and things that I've learned along the way that may have changed where I am now. Again, no concrete medical advice. All of our bodies are different. We're all going to relate to these different stressors in different ways. And so these are just based off of my experience. They're not based off of any scientific anything. They're not, don't take this to your doctor and be like, see what she said on the interweb. Don't do that. One of the first things I want to talk about are the very surprising symptoms of fibroids that you may not know about, or you may not have experienced, or you may not be aware of. I certainly wasn't. And wow, there are so many. There's so many things. Aside from the heavy periods, aside from anemia, like for me, the anemia was regular. I've always had anemia. If you are not a person who's regularly had anemia and you are perimenopausal, please get screened for fibroids. If you are having irregular periods with heavy bleeding and a lot of clotting, get screened for fibroids. If you start having cramps again, like early period menstrual cramps, when you were like in high school and you had to take an Advil every single time you had your period, if you are having that, check yourself and get screened for fibroids. Lower back pain, that is very close to sciatic pain. Like if you've ever had a sciatica issue, that's kind of what the lower back pain feels like. For me right now, my fibroids are humongous. My uterus is enlarged and descended and pressuring every single other organ in my body. It's like carrying a 7-month-old pregnancy without the cute little baby at the end of it. That's what it feels like for me right now. No kicks, no hiccups or anything like that. I am a mother of 4, so I have given birth a number of times, which is why the hysterectomy was kind of an easier decision. The abdominal swelling, night sweats, insomnia. The fibroids themselves have their own blood supply. They are taking a lot of your energy. If you are sleepy, if you are dizzy, having dizzy spells, there's so many different things. At this point, if instead of just chalking it up to perimenopause like I did for years, even after I got fibroid diagnosis, a lot of the things I was experiencing, even when I went to the doctor, it wasn't just me making this blanket statement that, oh, this must be perimenopause. It was also my doctors, that, oh, it's probably perimenopause, you'll probably be okay. Sleep it off, take an Advil. And I guess that's kind of like the wait and see approach, which is what I decided to take initially, which was the IUD, change your diet, get plenty of exercise. I do all those things. It didn't make sense. But there are a lot of, I would say from very mild to very extreme symptoms. One of the other symptoms that I'm having now, which may not happen so early. So like the super heavy bleeding for me and the lower back pain and the sciatica pain and the shortness of breath, all of that stuff happened kind of late stage within the past year. The years leading up to this, the enlarged uterus and the abdominal dissension and stuff like that, like those kinds of things happened within this past year. In addition to the fibroids themselves, because I am 50 and getting very, very close to menopause, they're starting to denigrate, which means that they're starting to break down. And that's kind of why I'm having so many issues right now. But I also have a lot of very large fibroids. And I just, for quality of life, I have chosen to go down the pathway of having a hysterectomy, Point number 2, finding the right doctor. I have been to so many OBGYNs. I have been to at least 5 of them with the same issue. I have had mixed results from all of them. My initial OB who did my pre-screening is no longer in my healthcare network, and she was good. I still, her advice to me was well received, and I did what she said. It didn't make that much of a difference. And I feel like there was a part of her, even when she was telling me these things, that she knew that, okay, this is probably the trajectory of it. And that's kind of where my beef lies. My beef with medical industry. It's like, you knew when you diagnosed me that this is probably going to be the trajectory of this diagnosis. And instead of warning me, like, I didn't feel like I was informed well enough. I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of sick days trying to figure out what was going on with my body, and went to a lot of different doctors. I'm in Kaiser, so I have a lot of options as far as that network is concerned. But one of the key standout moments, which actually put me in a better place as far as feeling like I have some control and some sense of identity and power in this whole process, was I ran into a friend who had gone through it, and she actually recommended her doctor who performed her myomectomy. And so I contacted this doctor, and I fell absolutely head over heels in love. If one could be in love with a physician, I'm in love with this physician. She's actually a surgeon. I'm so excited. Excited. That's the wrong word. That's the wrong word. I'm not excited. I'm petrified. But I'm grateful, and I feel like I've finally found someone who listens to what my questions are. Like, I have an appointment next week to actually my pre-op appointment to really get some of these questions that I still have lingering out, to discuss my plan leading up and after and all these things. So I feel like I'm receiving the proper care, but it has not always been the case. So the physician that I visited the last time was a gentleman who felt very not concerned. It was kind of like, yeah, I do this all the time. Spread them up. Let's go. Let's carve this baby out. He was going to actually do the myomectomy. And I waited a year from between him and between the surgeon that I'm actually seeing now, who after 5 minutes of, of examining me, decided like, girl, this is too much. We need to do a hysterectomy. You already have kids. I'm not going to go in there and play games. Let's handle business and get your life back on track. And I'm wondering if within that year, like, the changes in my body have been so extreme. And so I want to encourage you to find a physician as early as you possibly can who you can trust, who ask for recommendations, talk to people. That's how I found the doctor that is going to perform my hysterectomy, is by having conversations with random strangers at a concert. I was at a concert, for crying out loud, and we just started talking about this. And I feel like it was one of the great gifts of my life, because I was suffering, and I was suffering silently. And you know how we do as women, we can withstand everything. However, I shouldn't have to be silently suffering. And I also wonder how many of us are, because we are not getting advice that fulfills our questions and leads us in the direction that, this is part of a decision that we have to make. And it impacts the quality of life that we have and the choices that we make. So I think it's really important to have someone that you can turn to, that you can ask questions. Seems kind of easy, right? But not all physicians like that. Some of them just want you to sit there, like the guy I went to the first time, just wanted me to take his word for it, and I just wasn't ready to do that. So 1 year later, here I am, having not the procedure that he said that I should have, but whatever, it is fine. And that's my third point, is the power of community and talking to your community. I guarantee you that if you're a woman of a certain age and that you have female friends of a certain age, you have probably run across someone who has had issues with fibroids, or who has issues with uterine cancers, endometriosis, or PCOS, or their whatever things, struggles that we're having surrounding our reproductive organs. We also know that we live in a male-dominated society, and that our patriarchal medical forefathers have not considered what our needs are as women. I always joke with friends that if this was men and somebody was chopping off their junk here and there, that we'd have a cure. We would have had a cure yesterday. But that's not where we are. So seek out female doctors if you can. I'm not against male doctors, but my experience is that I've been able to relate a lot better to female obstetricians that are able to really, and I experienced this, or I am sympathetic because I am also, going through these types of things as well. And so that's where I'm very fortunate. But also build community. That's been one of the biggest healers for me, is being able to turn to my girlfriends and be like, hey girl, I heard you just got a hysterectomy. Can you tell me how things went? Or how are you recovering? Or what happened? What were the things that led to you getting that, or a myomectomy? How did you recover from that? There's so much we don't know. This is a major surgery. I know that they try to make it sound cute. Oh yeah, it's laparoscopic, so it's going to be easier. You're amputating my womb. Let's keep it a buck. You're amputating my womb. You could call it all the cute little names that you want, but this is major freaking surgery. You're removing a whole entire system of organs out of my body, and I don't have any answers as to why. I don't know any different things that could have done, or, it's a very frustrating situation. community is going to be everything. Like, have the conversations, be nosy, ask the questions. I guarantee you that if someone is experiencing this, that they probably feel quite alone and want to talk about it. So don't shy away from reaching out and asking people like, hey, what's going on? Like, can you give me some insight? Are these symptoms? Like, I have a friend who didn't know she had fibroids, and we had a conversation about it, and she was like, when got checked, her fibroids were way past where I am, and she just thought, well, okay, well, I'm just not comfortable or happy or feeling good, and I don't know why. It turns out it was fibroids and that she needed a hysterectomy. This isn't fun. I don't want to call this a journey. I want to call the journey something more entertaining and exciting. This is scary and yucky. I don't like it. Okay, point number 4. When should I consider a hysterectomy? This is a topic where I have absolutely no expertise. Okay, I have no answers. You need to talk to your physician. You need to have a healthcare professional walk you through that whole process. However, I do have some thoughts. When your fibroids start affecting your quality of life, I want you to be very clear about what your quality of life and your expectations are, because I thought I was living, right? Like, I'd have a couple of issues every year, and I didn't know what all this was leading up to. Like I said at the top of this video, this is all new to me. I've never had this experience before, obviously. So, having a surgery, and is that the only option? And I want to say that it isn't. I think that there may be other things. I don't know anyone personally who I trust and who I can talk to who has had another outcome, if I'm being honest. Whether you wait it out or not, because there was an option that was given to me that I could wait it out through menopause. Well, I'm not menopausal right now, and I know this because the turning point for me where my fibroids became a nuisance to becoming a problem was one evening I was out at a comedy show with friends wearing white, because of course I was wearing white. You know, why would I not be wearing white? I had just gotten off my period like the week before. So what, as one does when you know that you're not going to have your period, you wear white. Well, by the end of the show, I bled through my clothes, completely embarrassed, and embarrassing at this big age to be bleeding through your clothes, but I bled through my clothes, and I started having, like, I don't think my cycle, I won't even call it a cycle because I know it was way past my cycle, but I bled for about a month and a half, like heavy bleeding, about a month and a half. I was tired, I was dizzy, I was grouchy, I was cranky, I was in pain. I was having the most intense cramping that I've ever experienced. Like, this is beyond Advil, and it wasn't like slow cramping like you would get when you actually are on your period. It was like aggressive, like almost like contractions. I think that's probably a better way to describe them, that they were mild contractions, but a contraction where you're like this squeezing, and nausea where I couldn't lay down. I couldn't, I closed my eyes or lay down and go to sleep, and I was waking up with nausea like every it was not fun. And I went through this for like about a month and a half. And this is when the quality of life issue came on the table. And even right now, like, I'm no longer bleeding and I'm no longer nauseous, but I am having a difficult time walking because the weight of all of what's going on. And I know that there's inflammation, and I know that there's swelling, and God knows what else is going on in there. They found a cyst. So add that to the big, my uterus is freaking out party. Like, it's crazy in there right now. And I'm uncomfortable, and sitting down for a long period of time is uncomfortable, and standing for a long period of time is uncomfortable, and walking is uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. My quality of life has like totally transformed, because inside, like, there's been many days where I'm like, oh, I should go for a run. I wonder if I could. And as soon as I get up, I'm like, there's no way I could do that. Like, I have to listen to my body and listen to what my body is telling me, but the two are not in sync right now. And so after you've waited it out, wait it out if you want to wait it out. I waited it out probably a lot longer than would be recommended. I think at that stage, a year and a half ago, when I had that myomectomy discussion with that doctor, I should have immediately started searching for another doctor instead of just, maybe I'll ignore it and it'll go away. And this is the thing, like having folks in your circle that are like, girl, no, that's not something that you need to wait out, because I hear a lot of voices that are like, oh, are you sure you're having the symptoms that you're having? Are you sure you're not just overthinking it because, you like to overthink and all that? Like, no, my body is revolting against me right now. I should not have to live like this. I shouldn't have to just suffer it. I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm actually experiencing what I'm experiencing. Trust yourself. And the validation of that is actually having that community as well. So when should you get surgery? I can't tell you. Your physician's going to have to tell you, but you also need to be serious about it. Like, don't doubt what you're feeling. Don't push it aside, because it could be the difference between a preventative procedure, or it's still surgery, but something that's more preventative versus something that's as radical as a whole entire hysterectomy. There's different stages. There's embolization, there's myomectomy. I think embolization is not as common or popular nowadays, because I think the fibroids really come back quite aggressively after that. But myomectomy, I've known several people that have had more than one myomectomy, and they seem very satisfied with the procedure. I missed my window. I won't say opportunity, because that sounds really crazy, but I missed the window for that to be an option for me now. And so when should you consider surgery? I think once your quality of life has been impacted to the point where you're not comfortable, and say you're in your 40s, early 50s, and you have no signs of slowing as far as your being actually menopausal. Like, I feel like every year I'm like, almost menopaused, and then my period comes or something like this. So just be real, and don't let folks talk down your symptoms, or don't let outside voices raise doubt into whether or not what you're feeling is real. What you're feeling is real. Okay? Like, believe women. Like, if you think, or if you feel uncomfortable or unhappy or whatever it is, investigate it. There's no reason not to. And finally, my fifth point is questions that you may want to ask before agreeing to your surgery. There's so many questions. Oh my God. There's so many questions. I have still so many questions, and maybe I'll make a follow-up of this video after I go and bombard my sweet little OBGYN surgeon and be like, yo, help me. I have so many questions. I would say leading up to having either myomectomy or fibroid, or the hysterectomy or embolization, or whatever route you choose to go, I would ask about the impact of your diet. I would ask about how it's going to affect your organs, the healing process. Like, what are things that you can do to make said procedure, if you've decided to do the procedures, whichever procedure you decide to do, what can you do before any of those procedures to optimize your recovery, to help yourself feel like yourself? Because I think there's this out of body experience that you're kind of like slow motion walking into, like, am I going to be okay after this? What sensations am I going to lose? Am I still going to have sexual desire? I mean, it is our reproductive organs. Can I still have children after this? How does this impact my fertility? How, of course, with the hysterectomy, that's off the table. But before you get there, and this is why I'm saying, especially if you haven't had children and you want to have children, these definitely asking questions about fertility, definitely asking questions. A lot of times the doctors don't know how extensive the surgery is going to be until they actually get in there. I have had a friend who unfortunately was actually, her cancer was found during a hysterectomy and totally changed the trajectory of her life. She has fought it. She's winning that battle, but it's a heavy thing. And that was another thing that led me to make the decision that I'm making, is because I do know that although fibroids are considered to be benign, that they're non-cancerous, I have growths all over my uterus. And the chances are super high, in my opinion, that with all of that mutated growth that's happening in my reproductive organs, that I'm at high risk for maybe having a cancer that nobody can find, or they haven't seen it, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you detect? It's just, for me, like, I need to know that I don't have a hidden cancer or something like that. This is a real thing to think about. And they'll tell you, oh yeah, fibroids are benign, you don't have to worry about cancer. They'll do your blood work, everything looks fine. I even had a biopsy. During the biopsy, I don't actually know the results of the biopsy. I'm gonna find out next week. Hopefully cancer-free. I haven't heard anything. I imagine if cancer was found, I would have heard something by now. But there's a lot of things to consider when making this decision, a lot of questions to ask. Your questions, the things that you need to ask your physician, are going to be tailored to you, hopefully. Hopefully you will have I really strongly recommend that throughout this process that you either journal or keep a diary where you can like really express your thoughts freely without judgment. And that gives you an opportunity to get every single thing that is popping up, that's creeping up inside of your head, out on paper. And when you're maybe not in the throes of emotion or fear, you can look back at that and be like, okay, this is a valid question, and write those questions down so that when you do go to see your doctor, you can be like, listen, these are the things I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with sexual function. I'm concerned with, you know, life after. One of my concerns that, I mean, it may sound wild, but if you did leave my ovaries, which I'm not sure is going to happen. At first I was going to have the ovaries still, but there's a cyst on one, so we'll see. Are they just going to be dangling around? Like, what are they attached to? Like, I'm really curious about that, because it's like, okay, you're taking the uterus and you're leaving the ovaries so that I don't go into instant menopause, but what are they attached to? It's like dangling. I visualize it. I'm sorry. I know maybe people don't want to do that. I've already looked it up on the internet, but I'm just like, what the hell is going to be happening with the rest of the things that are in my body? And I want to know. That's my right. I feel like I should know what's going on in there. So create your own list of crazy questions and ask those questions. And who cares if somebody thinks your questions are dumb? I teach high school. Kids are always like, I didn't ask because I thought I would sound dumb. Please sound dumb. Sound dumb. Like, who cares? Like, ask the question so that you have that peace of mind. This is major surgery. I don't want to keep harping on that because, you know, it sounds cute to call it, oh, it's just laparoscopic, but girl, they're taking the whole business down. Like, I want to know what's going to happen before, leading up to, and afterwards. I don't think that's too much to ask. So those are my thoughts. That's where I'm at right now. Hopefully, if you are in this trajectory of some sort, that hopefully this video helps you to process where you are in your journey and what, I said it. I said journey. Okay, whatever. Our journey. I'll join the journey with you, our journey, no matter where you are in this process. Hopefully this video has given you some things to think about and some ways to process what's happening. I am documenting my entire experience. Like I said, I'm a few weeks away from the hysterectomy surgery, and I do plan to share my journey. Oh, I said it again, damn it. I do plan to share my experiences with you because I feel like if you are where I was 6 years ago, you're gonna wanna hear what I'm talking about. This video is part 1 of a 5-part series that I'm going to be doing for my pre-op. I wanted to come out here and share this experience with you. I feel that there's not enough support for women that are in this process. I feel that we are unceremoniously written off when we do have questions. I feel that we in ourselves don't talk about it enough. And that's not okay. You know, that's not okay. So I'm making this video series, and the next one is going to be about my physical preparation, how I'm preparing myself physically. I'm talking diet, I'm talking nutrition, I'm talking movement, as well as supplements leading up to my surgery that I hope will help me heal. Also, this is something that I'm really excited and I'm working on as a it's kind of a one-pager with a bunch of resources that I'm putting together, things that I think helped me, people that I'm following who I feel are top tier as far as discussions about fibroids and hysterectomy and holistic healing, as well as the traditional medical world, which they did us dirty. But there's still a lot, you know, it's still kind of like putty in their hands to a certain extent. So some resources that I put together that I hope will help you along your way. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.